Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome. It's Monday. So excited to be here with all of you. So thought I would talk today about talking about your art. Thought that would be a fantastic way to start off the week is to think about this topic that I know a lot of people avoid, which is talking about your work. And what I wanted to talk about, so the talking about your work is difficult for so many artists because it's a little bit scary. It can be intimidating. It can feel, it just kind of produces a lot of anxiety. I think for a lot of people, this idea of talking about their work in front of people. And so your relationship with your art is what influences how you think about your work and how you talk about your work. And your relationship with your art is really based on your thoughts about you, and how you treat your art. How you treat your art practice really reflects your thoughts about yourself as an artist. And the reason this matters so much is because it impacts how you talk about your work, how you talk about yourself, and how you show up. So, like I said, for a lot of artists, the idea of talking about themselves and talking about their work brings up quite a bit of anxiety. I have seen this happen so often, and it has been a point of conversation in growth studio and with a lot of artists that I work with. So if the idea of talking about yourself and talking about your work brings up a lot of anxiety, then I'm here to help you with that today. So, of course, if that's what you experience, if it brings up those feelings of anxiety, you're going to want to avoid feeling that anxiety. Anxiety doesn't feel good. It feels terrible. So of course you want to try to get out of the situation or avoid it. Avoid any type of situation that you think is going to cause you that sort of like maelstrom of emotions that I'm just going to use the umbrella term and say anxiety. So if you think about talking about yourself and talking about your work equals anxiety, then of course you're going to want to avoid doing it. This impacts how you show up at art shows. This impacts whether or not you submit your work to an art gallery or an art competition. It impacts how you show up on social media and what you say when somebody asks you about your work. And even like if you think about it, it even impacts whether or not you kind of like hide in the corner at a show or you have another glass of wine to sort of like calm yourself down when you're at your own art opening. So when you develop an amazing relationship with yourself as an artist, and you sort of learn how to curate your own thoughts on purpose, you set yourself up to have much better experiences with your art and with all of the things that we get to do as artists. So right now, just out of curiosity, drop it in the chat. I did make sure the chat is working. So drop it in the chat. What would it mean for you if you could talk about your work freely and confidently in any situation, and you didn't experience any of that anxiety that a lot of us tend to experience when we're talking about our artwork? And I just want to make sure the chat is open. Yes, fantastic. Okay. Yeah, tell me what it would mean. It would mean for you. Tell me what like you can think about it this way. What would it mean for you if you could talk freely and confidently when you meet new people, when you tell them that you're an artist, when somebody asks what you do? How would that be for you if you could be like kind of free and confident in how you talk about yourself, or when you offer your work for sale? Imagine for a second just what that would be like for you. The I was thinking about this because I was watching somebody on Instagram talk about their work, and so just imagine like the confidence that you might experience when somebody just pops by your studio and comes in and says, "Hey, show me what you're working on." I know a lot of artists have this anxiety that comes up, and they're like, "Oh my God, what do I show? What do I say? What like, am I talking too much? Am I not talking enough?" All of those things. It can impact even your decision to have an open studio event. I know a lot of artists who they tend to avoid that. They don't want to sign up for those things because they know I'm going to have to talk about my work, and I don't know what that is going to like. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to do that. I'm just like immediately my brain just shuts down and I don't know what to do. And thinking about like posting your work on the internet, getting comments. If you are very comfortable, very confident talking about your work, how do you imagine responding to good comments, bad comments, neutral comments? What would that like? How would you show up in those situations? Your relationship with your art is based on your thoughts about you. How you treat your art practice reflects your thoughts about yourself as an artist. So having this amazing relationship with yourself is really just kind of a commitment to think awesome thoughts about yourself. Okay. So that in and of itself. So now we've gone from like the kind of default, I think, for a lot of artists is to not want to talk about themselves at all. But then like I like to turn up the dial a little bit even more and say like, okay, just imagine now that you have an amazing relationship with yourself and you are committed to thinking awesome thoughts about yourself. I purposely I purposely put a lot of the artists who are in Growth Studio in this position in like a smaller, very contained place so that they can talk about it. When we do critiques, the first question I always ask is, what is it that you love about this piece that we're talking about? Tell me something good about it. Tell me something that you think is amazing about this work that we're looking at today. And it's amazing just to kind of watch the evolution. Usually like at first they really, really squirm, like getting artists to say nice things about their work and really mean it is something that we're just not used to. So if you like, tell me, like, for those of you who are here live, let me know in the chat what that idea brings up for you. If you are thinking about what, like, if I ask you to say like amazing things about yourself as an artist, like what feeling does that conjure up for you? Andrew said that it would be great so this is in response to having that confidence and being able to talk freely about your work. Andrew is just saying like, that would be amazing. That would be great. Yes. And Natalie's saying it would create connection. Yes. Creating connection allows you again to just have that back and forth and create a dialogue about your art, which is often what we want when we create it and when we show it. So those are some amazing things about just having that confidence to be able to talk about your work. So this other idea of feeling like getting into the habit of thinking awesome thoughts about yourself, like not just nice thoughts, but awesome thoughts about yourself. For some of you, it's going to feel very, very strange. And the reason why is because our brains are conditioned to look for the bad and to judge ourselves. It's kind of how we survived as a species. We needed to see, like, we needed to make quick judgments about other people and about situations to know whether or not it was safe, like if they were going to take our resources, or like if they had malintent. So that is the reason, like that is our default. But in our art studio, we don't really need to do that anymore. And in fact, it doesn't help us to have that be the default. We spend so much energy criticizing and judging ourselves and our art that we tend to miss the good stuff. And some of the common reasons that artists don't like to talk about themselves is because they think that focusing on the good stuff makes you arrogant or makes you conceited. And what I want to offer you this week to think about is that noticing what you are doing well does not mean that you think you are better than other people. Okay, so focusing on the good stuff those two do not equal each other. You can notice good things about your work. You can notice good things about yourself as an artist without making it mean that there's a hierarchy or there's a comparison with other people around you, and or that you're putting, by thinking that or by saying that about your own work or your own self as an artist, that you're putting other people down. Noticing what is working in your work, or saying that you're amazing, saying these nice things about yourself, doesn't mean either that you don't see what can be improved. It doesn't mean that you ignore the things that aren't working. It just simply means that you're noticing the amazing good things about yourself as the artist and about what you're creating on the canvas. And so I want you to really consider this and really think about it. Why is it a problem if you think highly of yourself? You're not saying that you're better than anyone else. You're not hurting anyone else by thinking highly of yourself. So the question sort of becomes, who told you that you should not think highly of yourself? Why wouldn't you think highly of yourself? So you can start to cultivate these ideas. You can start to, like, first just recognize, just kind of like pull that idea apart and recognize that what you do well doesn't hurt anybody else you don't hurt anybody else by recognizing the things that you do well. It doesn't mean anything bad if you notice that you're really good at something, or that you notice that, oh my gosh, in this painting, here's the thing that is really working well. And I really appreciate how I did that. Like, I can notice how much better I've gotten at something than I was before. And that recognition is going to help me become a better artist. It's going to help me understand, like, what are the things I like, what is working well in my painting. And it's going to allow me to talk about my work in a very different way. So you can recognize how amazing you are without it meaning that other people are less than you. So if you're looking at your painting, if you're looking at this work and you're able to recognize, like, this is amazing what I created. I love what I did today. I love the marks that I made. I love that I did the work today. I love that I was able to recognize, like, these value differences that maybe I didn't see, a few weeks ago or a few months ago, right? The more that you're able to cultivate this, the more that you're able to start allowing yourself to recognize those things, then you give your brain these ideas of, you start to recognize, what are the things that I love about my work? What are the things that I want to do more of? And that doesn't mean that you don't recognize the things that you don't want to do, right? So you can still notice that your drawing is off while you're noticing that you nailed the values in this other place, and you can correct that. And so the less that you sort of make these things it's almost like we make them moral issues, then the more vocabulary you have to talk about your work, the more confident you get about talking about your work, because you're not making it mean anything bad about yourself by talking about your work. Leslie, I love this. Leslie is saying, I was raised that being boastful was wrong, so I've had to work hard to change that pattern thinking, and it's not comparing or being competitive. Exactly. Those are some of the thoughts that we're taught and we are conditioned to think about. We're taught, like, some of the other things that I remember hearing is don't think so much of yourself, don't get too big for your britches. There's a saying, one of my friends taught me this one recently. We were talking about this topic, and it was, you guys probably know this saying, it's like the tallest poppy gets cut or something like that. Like, it's much more eloquent, I think, the actual quote, but it's this idea that whatever sticks up is going to get cut. And these are all thoughts that other people have offered, and we have developed into our own belief system. We've adopted these thoughts, and we kind of made it mean that we shouldn't think so highly of ourselves, so highly of ourselves. And so I'm kind of been thinking a lot about this and how much it harms our growth as artists when we are conditioned to not want to talk about ourselves, or thinking that talking about saying good things about your art means something more than it actually does. So consider the cost of not allowing yourself to talk about the amazing things that you do in your art, to even admit that you might be doing amazing things in your art. It's a really tough one. And so I want you to just kind of sit there with it. And maybe this week, just kind of think about, like, why don't I want to do, if you're somebody who doesn't want to do that, like, why not? What is it costing? What are you getting out of not allowing yourself to be amazing with your work, to think amazing thoughts about your work? Who is it harming if you say that you are amazing like that? I think that's a really interesting question to really dig into. So that's what I wanted to offer you all today, are these thoughts about how you talk about yourself, how you talk about your work, allowing yourself to think amazing thoughts about yourself, and developing this relationship, a better relationship with yourself as the artist through how you think about yourself. All right, friends, I'm going to check in Facebook real quick and see. Yeah, we've got another one. Big shot was the worst thing my grandma could say. Yes. Don't be such a big shot. Yeah. And so here's just one more thing, why is being a big shot bad? Like, it's so interesting to think about, like, why, what I think is quote unquote bad about that is if you use that against other people, or you use that to push other people down. But if you just think, I'm doing really well, I'm really proud of what I'm working on with my art, I'm really proud of my progress, who does that hurt? And how might that enable you to become more confident with your work, become more to notice, to earn the habit of looking at what you're doing and noticing all the amazing things and saying, this is amazing. All right. That's what I have for you all today. It's so funny, but yeah, and I love this. Carol's also saying that it seems really odd that she was talking to an 8-year-old. Like, yeah, 8 years old, you can be a big shot. I hope you are. I hope all 8-year-olds become big shots because I think that would be amazing. I don't know. Okay, that's what I have for all of you today. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Happy, happy painting. So good to see everyone, and take all this stuff, really think it through and bring it into your art practice and see what it creates for you.